Hello and welcome to our new podcast series, ENLIGHT Insights, Knowledge Unpacked, where we dive into the stories shaping our world, from science and society to the environment and beyond. Today we are zooming in on something that's all around us, in our oceans, our soil, maybe even in our bodies, and yet we barely notice it. It's plastic. Not just bottles and bags, but the tiny, almost invisible fragments called micro and nanoplastics. I'm your host, John, and joining me is an incredible researcher working at the forefront of this field, Dr. Miren Cajaraville Bereciartua from the University of the Basque Country. She's a part of a thematic network called PLASTIMPACT, which is tackling the fate and impact of plastics, from macro to nano, on planetary health. Miren, welcome. Could you please start by introducing yourself and telling us about your roles in PLASTIMPACT?
Hello, John. It's really a pleasure to be here and to share with you what we are doing in the PLASTIMPACT network. As you mentioned, this PLASTIMPACT network is a network of 9 universities and light universities, and we are a coordinators team of the 9 universities. I am the general coordinator of the project. Well, I am a full professor in cell biology at the University of the Basque Country since more than 20 years ago. And I founded a research group, a consolidated research group called Cell Biology in Environmental Toxicology plus One Health. And I'm principal researcher of several projects dealing with plastic pollution, on the fate and impact of oil-based plastics, also bio-based and biodegradable plastics, also risks for the environment and risks for human health. So, yeah, and I also coordinate a PhD program on environmental contamination and toxicology. And I am a part of the academic commission of several masters, some of them Erasmus Mundus masters that are run here. And my research field is mostly dealing with the biological effects of pollutants. So we are interested on how the different pollutants interact with cells and organisms in the marine environment, but generally in the aquatic ecosystems and also on human health. So we developed some biomarkers that can tell us what are the response of the cells and the organisms, and also some bioassays with different organisms like microalgae, rotifers, copepods, fish, of course, fish embryos, bivalves. So we work with different organisms and look at their responses, both in vivo and also in vitro.
Yeah, before we dive into further details, I want to learn more about what sparked your interest in plastic pollution research. You said that you are a cell biology professor, but what was the thing that got you into this whole plastic problem?
Yes. Well, yes, I am a cell biologist, a histologist also, but since the very beginning, more than 25 years ago, we started to look at the different pollutants in the environment. So we started with the legacy pollutants like metals or oil pollution after several accidents of oil spills in the marine environment. Then I moved to the endocrine disruptors because there are many pollutants that are very well-known endocrine disruptors. And then I started to work with the nanomaterials. Nanomaterials like nanoparticles of metal oxides or silver nanoparticles, gold nanoparticles, and so on. And also graphene that maybe you've heard about. And it was from this nano world that I came to be interested in the nanoplastics, especially nanoplastics, and then, of course, plastics in general from the macro, micro, and nano scales. So my trouble was from the nano materials to the plastics.
Yeah, like you have like such a fascinating background and it's so versatile. But like let's focus on the current funded project. So what exactly is this Enlight funded project about? What are you aiming to achieve in this PLASTIMPACT?
Well, the PLASTIMPACT project is really ambitious because we want to to establish a community. First of all, this is our main goal. First, to establish or to build a community among the different research teams of the nine ENLIGHT universities, but not only a community of scientists, but also we want to involve the citizens, the students, the school students, and also stakeholders. So this community building is really important for us. Of course, a second main objective is to raise awareness in society and to share knowledge with citizens and researchers about plastic pollution. And of course, we also want to involve the stakeholders. So we want to establish a dialogue with the
Mhm.
stakeholders. And finally, the final goal will be to define some common strategies to reduce plastic pollution. So at the end, this is our main goal. We just had a meeting in Bordeaux, a symposium, where we met, all of us, the nine universities, and also several stakeholders, some NGOs, some technological centers. So this was very interesting to establish this dialogue and see what kind of synergies we can establish to go ahead to get this main goal of reducing plastic pollution.
Yeah, so like I think it's like a multi-step process. We have the society side, we have the like stakeholder side. So like how do you divide that projects like between yourselves, between the researchers? Are there like
Well,
some sections dealing with only
yes,
stakeholder? Okay.
yes. When we did write the proposal, it was almost 1 year ago. We established, well, at that stage, we were only seven universities, and we established like two clusters. So one to be very much focusing on aquatic ecosystems, so marine and freshwater environments, and then another cluster to focus on soil and terrestrial environment, plus the human health aspects.
Mhm.
But it is, and then each university has groups, research groups, and stakeholders that would like to be involved in both aquatic environment or terrestrial environment or human health aspects. But then during these months of the starting the project, because the project just started in January,
Mhm.
but we thought it would be very important to have additional clusters. So we are establishing a new cluster on material sciences, a new cluster on education,
Mhm.
and a new cluster on science communication. So because we want to tackle all these aspects. And well, as I mentioned, the expertise of the group is really very wide. So we have people, experts in education, in communication science, innovation, knowledge transfer, of course, aquatic and terrestrial pollution, marine science, soil science, modeling of environmental fate, environmental toxicology, environmental geochemistry,
Yeah,
material
that's
sciences, polymer sciences, nanotechnology also, because we really want to address the nanoplastics in detail, biotechnology, recycling, circular
exactly.
economy.
And you have like nine universities across Europe for this project, right? So that's
Yes,
quite ambitious.
yes, yes. The idea is to establish like a pilot program in
Mhm.
each region, in each country.
Yes,
Of course, for this, we need to work a lot and to have some preliminary work done on establishing which protocols we will use how we will work with the citizens and with the school students. So after this, once our web page is finished, we will have a channel to communicate with the citizens and the schools and also with the researchers, of course. And in this way, we will design the pilot citizen science program. And it has like two main parts. One is with citizens in general, and we will monitor macroplastic litter with them
Hmm.
in the marine, in the freshwater, and in the soil ecosystems. And second, we will involve the high schools, and the selected students in the high schools will be involved in sampling and analysis of microplastics.
Yeah,
So
but
this is a lot of work, yes.
this is a lot of work. This is a lot of work. But like when you go on the street and like ask people about plastic pollution, they might think of bottles on beaches. But I understand your project looks at everything from macro to nanoplastics. It is like it's an enormous versatile project. Can you paint us a picture of what plastic pollution really looks like in 2025?
Wow. This is a difficult question to 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 summarize in few minutes. Yeah, the situation, the state of the art on plastic pollution. I would say, well, we all know that plastic pollution has become a global threat for the environment and also for human health. So, in recent years, let's say the last 10 years, since we started to work on plastic pollution, we noticed that now we have clear evidences that plastic, and especially the smaller sizes, the micro and nanoplastics especially, can interact with the cells and with organisms in the ecosystems and also, of course, in the human body. So we know that they can come into the organisms and they can have some effects. These effects are very wide. Some have to do with like satiation because many animals can mix the plastics with food, and then this will cause starvation and different problems in the digestive system. But a very general mechanism is to produce what we call oxidative stress,
Hmm.
and also inflammatory reactions.
Yeah.
So this seems to be a quite general pattern for the mechanism of toxic action of plastics. But in the last years, we have been looking mostly at the polymers. And plastic is not only the polymers, plastic is much more. Plastics is the polymer plus the additives. They
Mm.
contain they contain like thousands of additives, which is amazing because some of these additives are really well known by us, by toxicologists, as posing a hazard for health. So these additives are really a problem. And also think about the plastics in the environment. In the environment, they interact with other pollutants that are already in the environment. So they can
Oh,
absorb other pollutants. And this is an additional risk. So this could be a summary of the actual situation.
yeah. And
Yeah.
like like I read somewhere that some newborn babies they are born with nanoplastics in their body. Is it correct? Because of the mother, like the consumption of the mother affects the baby.
Yeah, maybe you refer to a recent publication
Hmm.
where they shown that there are microplastics in the placenta.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the
yeah.
placenta is, of course, an organ that is connecting the mother and the child, and the embryo or the fetus.
Mhm.
And so, yes, they found microplastics in the placenta, but they found also in blood, they found also in the milk, they found
Oh,
also in the brain.
in the
So
milk, in the brain. Okay.
yes, yes, there are recent publications because this all is very new. I mean, we are still starting investigations on how all these. Well, first of all, if they these plastics they can be found in our tissues, and where, and what are the effects that they are producing, the impacts.
Yeah, and you said that plastic has additives and they're hazardous to health. You mean like they're carcinogens, right? They make us like they can make us cancer.
Well, there are thousands of additives in plastics because
Oh,
for different applications, different uses. For instance, well, for because we have plastic everywhere, but for each specific application, the producers will add a different array of additives. Some are pigments, some are flame retardants, some are antioxidants, etc. And yes, of course, some of these additives are well known um, um toxic. But of course, think that in toxicology, the dose makes the poison. Okay,
that's right.
this
That's
is
right.
a very important thing to remind. So um, we didn't yet um, we cannot yet say what are the risks, the specific risks that we are facing, because this will depend on the exposure, concentrations, and then the fate of the plastics and in the bodies, and then the the effects. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Returning to the project. So
yeah.
your project actually has a very interesting name. It's like PLASTIMPACT, which plays both on the impact of plastics and the impact you want to make actually. So you're planning two summer schools in Groningen and Galway, I guess. And what will the students actually be learning and doing there?
Yes, that's a nice question. Yeah. When we organized this network, we, as I mentioned, one of our main goals is to build a community of researchers, citizens, stakeholders. So we organized this first symposium this year, and then next year there will be a summer course uh, addressing the effects of plastics on human health in Groningen. And then the next year, 2027, we will be focusing on environmental effects of plastics. And this will take place in Galway. And the idea is to involve especially the early stage researchers, so that the early stage researchers like PhD candidates and postdocs, they can uh, present their own results, and then also learn with more senior researchers. And the idea is to have like roundtables and to establish this kind of dialogue, so that we can have some conclusions that will help us in our main objective of reducing the impact of plastics on health.
Yeah, I think it's really amazing that you have such an ambitious big project that is like encapsulating basically like everything, like scientists, early researchers, high school students, and the society itself. And this like one thing that caught my attention is your like this citizen science component. You're involving regular people and high school students in monitoring plastics in their local environments. How does that work in practice? What might someone in Bordeaux or like Tartu actually be doing?
Well, yeah, first of all, I must say that the project started in January this year.
Mhm.
So we are just starting.
Yeah.
So we didn't yet start with this pilot citizen science program. But Of course, all the 9 universities involved in the project have previous experience on citizen science programs. So the idea is, first of all, to share the protocols that we all use in the different universities and the different stakeholders in different regions and countries. And in the web page, we have to establish the forms for the citizens and schools to interact with us, to register in our program. And then, of course, we will organize training activities. And in parallel, for these training activities, we will be doing producing some education materials.
Mhm.
Some of the universities are specifically working to produce these videos, for instance, and other audiovisual material for training. And then, of course, each university and each region or country will need to adapt all this to its own situation. And some of the universities will be focusing on marine environment, some other on soil, and a little bit. So it's not that we all will do everything, but each one will specialize um, based on the background and the expertise of each team.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I know that it's not established yet. Um, how do you think about this training process? Will it be theory focused training, or like will there be also like in practice training as well? A thing that can apply to the real world scenarios.
Yes. Well, yeah, it will be mostly practical. It's not the idea here is that to raise awareness
Mhm.
and to engage the citizens, the students, the stakeholders. You really need to be practical to show what is a microplastic, how the scientists we work with them, how we can analyze them in practice. So the idea would be to be as practical as possible. Of course, this will depend on the resources
Mhm.
because, well, this ENLIGHT funding, it's possibly will not cover everything, but we will try to cover as much as possible and to make all this training and all this pilot program as practical as possible.
Yeah, yeah, it's really amazing. And in the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned like both terrestrial and aquatic environments, plus their like human health impacts. For our listeners who might not know, how do like these tiny plastic particles actually affect human health? Like, should we be worried about the water we drink or the food we eat or when we go swimming, for example?
Well, the plastic pollution is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. So yes, of course, for the terrestrial organisms, it will mostly reach them by
Mhm.
ingestions by just feeding
Mhm.
process, but also by dermal contact.
Mhm. Skin
And
contact, right?
yeah, and in the case of aquatic organisms, again, it will be through water,
Mhm.
food intake, and also dermally. And in the case of human exposure, we again need to take into consideration water, food, air as exposure routes. Yes.
Okay, so like for example, like we shouldn't buy plastic bottles, or is there a way that can a bottle be safe and plastic at the same time?
Well, we talked before about reducing the plastic in the
Mhm.
environment. And I think this is important. So when we talk about plastic bottles, of course, the least we use, the better. And we are looking for a change in behavior so that the people will be conscious that we need to substitute progressively all these, of course, single-use plastics already can be substituted in many, many cases. And in the case of other products that we cannot substitute, we will need to find other alternatives. Of course, recycling is an alternative. Now there is this new materials that are being produced, like bio-based and biodegradable plastics.
Hmm.
But it's not clear whether these new materials will be safe for the environment and for human health, because you have to take into consideration that these bio-based and biodegradable plastics, they also contain additives, and sometimes even more additives than the oil-based plastics. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you answered. And like we don't know how this new plastic will interact with our body, right? That's the general like
Yes,
idea.
for these new bio-based and biodegradable ones, the field, this research field is just starting,
Mhm, mhm,
but the initial evidences, especially for the aquatic environment where we have more data, uh, it is clear that these new materials also contain additives and also produce effects on the organisms. So yeah, this is something that we need to tackle. Yes,
Yeah, and we can always substitute our plastic bottle with a glass one, for example,
of
right?
course,
Or an aluminum one. It should be easier.
much easier. So of course, not everything can be substituted so easily, but if we can have some make some steps towards reducing this the use of plastic in many consumer products.
Yeah, yeah. And let's talk about the like stakeholder side of things. You're working with stakeholders and policymakers. So when you sit down with a city council or a European policymaker, what's your main message? What changes are you advocating for?
Well, again, a very difficult question. Um, yeah, well, PLASTIMPACT is a 3-year project,
Mhm.
a 3-year network. So I think this will be like a starting step.
Yes.
So to know each other, to build this community, to start collaboration, and to be able to start new projects
Mhm.
on these gaps in knowledge that we are now identifying. But in this during these 3 first years of collaboration of PLASTIMPACT, we would like to reach the aims of the project, to increase awareness in all the 9 regions, countries involved, to involve citizens and stakeholders, students, in general, to change behaviors and to engage them in this fight against plastic pollution. So it's not something that we can get in 3 years, but I think in 3 years we can do a lot, and that's what we will try to achieve. And
Yeah,
in 3 years we can meet again, John,
of course, of course.
and then we can see how we well how we advanced in the field.
Yeah, and like plastic is something that we should all worry about. It's not only researchers, it's like everyone, the society, every human being should be concerned about plastics. There is even this plastic continent. they say, like on the ocean because of the garbage plastics, right? So it's a really big problem. And
Yes. Yep.
yeah,
No, no, no. I think you are talking about these places where the plastics accumulate, the
yeah,
ocean gyres.
exactly, exactly.
Yes, these huge islands that were discovered. Yes, this is a problem.
Hmm.
And of course, these plastics that are accumulated there, then they redistribute to other parts, yeah, of the oceans. But of course, it's not only this. It's our daily in our daily life that we find plastics everywhere, and the same for um, terrestrial and aquatic organisms. And as I mentioned, this plastic pollution um, interacts with pollutants from other sources, like metals or hydrocarbons or pesticides or solvents or many other pollutants. And also, of course, there is an interaction with climate change that also it's interesting to address.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like thinking about these like pollutants, I think every region has its own like different pollutants, right? Because looking at these like nine partner universities from the Basque Country to Estonia, like probably you're seeing plastic pollution across very different environments and cultures. But like, are these problems similar everywhere, or does each region have its own unique challenges?
yeah. Well, plastic pollution is a global problem. So it's affecting all the different, the nine universities
Mhm,
and regions, countries in Europe and over the world.
mhm,
But at the same time, it's also true that in each specific region or country, you have a specific challenges. For instance, we are nine universities, and three of us we are very much connected, closely geographically connected, because we in the Basque Country, in Bordeaux, and in Galway, we are all close to the Bay of Biscay. We are
mhm,
facing the Bay of Biscay, and the Bay of Biscay is an well-known accumulation zone for surface plastics and possibly also plastics in the deep ocean. Because of the currents in the area, these plastics finally accumulate there. So, so this is for us a particular interest to look at the marine environment in this area, at the Bay of Biscay.
mhm,
And to look, also it's a place with a lot of fishing activity. So it's
mhm.
interesting to look at the contribution of fishing gear to the global plastic pollution. And yeah, just to mention, we have now a PhD thesis on this subject, on the contribution of fishing nets to this plastic pollution. But maybe in other universities, like for instance, the University of Bern, they are more worried about the lakes or freshwater
Mhm.
ecosystems, the rivers and lakes. So yes, so there are global threats and also there are more specific threats in each particular region.
Yeah, and like when you talk about these aquatic environments, I always think of these like big sea and like bays, like water surfaces and also like their depth. And I think that also there is these new advancements in AI. So like, are there any promising solutions or technologies like AI that give you hope that can just, scan these like big surfaces?
Well, the artificial intelligence mm, is just starting also, but I think it has a lot of promise for application in all areas. I mean,
Mhm,
including the plastic and overall pollution in the environment. I think especially for risk assessment, and for risk assessment, we use some. We need data. We need data on the exposure, concentrations, and we need data on where we find microplastic, nanoplastic, or macroplastic pollution, and of course the artificial intelligence could be a nice tool to develop new risk assessment methodologies that can help us evaluate with more precisely what is the risk of plastic and other pollution for human and environmental health.
Yeah. And I think you've been in this field for quite a long time. What would you say is the most surprising thing you've discovered in your research so far?
Ooh, surprising, you mean regarding plastic?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Well, surprising. Yeah, I think for me it was very nice some years ago when we started to work with plastics of different sizes, and we work with polystyrene plastics
Mhm.
at the nano size, 50 nanometers, then 500 nanometers, and then bigger than 1 micron, so micro plastic, and to discover how this the size of the particles would determine, of course, the location and the mechanism of uptake by the cells. And for this, we use different instruments like the fluorescence confocal microscope or a transmission electron microscope that allows us to go into the cell at a very high magnification. And so you can see these tiny nanoparticles within the cells and within the organelles of the cells. And this was really amazing to see. Yeah.
But at the same time, kind of scary, right? A plastic can be that tiny, in our bloodstream, in our cells and everything.
Well, we have to put all this in context.
Mhm.
We since many years ago, yes, since the 20th century, we live in a chemical world, and we have to assume this in part.
Mhm.
And all these chemical compounds and all these nanomaterials and plastics also have um, have allowed us to have this well-being that we have today. But at the same time, they pose a risk. So we have to find this an equilibrium, and of course for this it is of utmost importance that we understand how all these pollutants, emerging pollutants, how they impact the environment and human health. So yeah, it is scary, but not more scary than the metals or the hydrocarbons or the pesticides or the pharmaceuticals that we can find also in the environment. All
Yes.
this is in the environment. And then in the some dozens of years ago, then we also have the plastics and the interaction between all these chemicals and all these particles. And in fact, this is one of the very important challenges now in the world to really look at the effects of mixtures, plastics in combination with the other chemicals in interaction with climate change. All these mixture effects are really important, and we just started, very started to discover or to analyze this.
Yeah, like there are a lot of things to worry about in the world. especially today. But it's so good that we have the Plast Impact Network. It's been 5 months, I guess, right, since you started, but it's like a 3-year project, and it'll only get better. So if our listeners want to get involved, whether they are students, parents, or just concerned citizens, what can they actually do? And how can they follow your findings? I think you mentioned something like a website coming along.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I think the web page is, of course, the tool for contacting us, but also through email. Um, the universities that are involved in PLASTIMPACT are the University of the Basque Country as a coordinating institution, then the University of Bordeaux, University of Ghent, University of Groningen, Galway, Bern, Tartu, Bratislava, and Uppsala. So you can, citizens, stakeholders, companies, researchers can contact us as any of these 9 universities, especially through the ENLIGHT offices at these universities, and we would be so happy to connect with them and to, yes, to interact and collaborate.
Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing. And like finally looking 2 to 3 years ahead, when this phase of the project wraps up, what would success look like for Plast Impact? What changes would you want to see in the world? Of course, less plastics.
Oof. Well, changes in the world. Well, this is really, really,
Long list, right?
it's very ambitious. So I would be very happy if we just succeed in reaching the aims of the project for this first term of the 3 years uh, term. And if we can succeed in building this community, we are now about 85 people, which is a lot. 85 scientists. So this gives us a lot of potential to really have an impact on each of the communities that we belong to. So 85 researchers, and then the stakeholders and the citizens and the school students. This will be a huge community, and I think we will be really able to reach our goals of increasing awareness and changing, at least at some extent, the behavior of people to tackle and to reduce plastic pollution. Yes.
Yes, and also I have so much faith in you. I think you're gonna have a great success. Thank you so much, Miren. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Again, huge thanks to Dr. Miren Cajaraville Bereciartua for sharing her time, insight, and passion with us. Plastimpact is tackling a complex global challenge, and it's clear that their work is about more than just research. It's about building connections between science, society, and the environment, and inspiring real change. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind to the planet, and maybe take a second look at that plastic fork. Thanks for listening.